As this full horror begins to come out, as this information begins to be drug out into the sunlight, it's going to be absolutely horrible. And that's why you're going to see cartoonish things put out into the pop culture that are meant to discredit it, like, oh, there's all these thousands of tunnels underground and hundreds of thousands of children that have never seen light that are living under these caves. That's not going on. Are there underground bases globalists have where they abuse kids and do horrible cloning experiments and cyborg stuff? Absolutely. Are there kids in dungeons underground? Better damn believe it. But, you know, there's been explosions and earthquakes lately because the special forces are fighting the pedophiles underground. That's all made up crap. But Jeffrey Epstein and all of his CDs with world leaders having sex with children as young as 5, and the snuff films and the devil worship and the torture chairs and the satanic temple on his island and the weird cloning facility at Zorro Ranch in New Mexico, that's all real. Eyes wide shut, all of it, and it's coming out. Infowars.com, newswars.com, band.video. So remember, ladies and gentlemen, that they want to control people and they want to get people compromised. And the only way to really do that, they think, is to have people have sex with children, because it also gets God to remove his protection from you so they can really get you into the satanic cult. It's not just about having dirt on you. It's not just about blackmail. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cover it next segment. I'm going to show you where she got arrested in New Hampshire. It's in Paul Joseph Watson's article. I'm going to go over some of the details of that for you next segment. But I also want to just let you know this. I know some folks in New York, I'll just leave it at that, who work in and around the Southern District of New York. And as you know, we also know the state police in New Jersey and New York. And so I made some phone calls this morning as soon as this broke at about 8 a.m. Central, 9 a.m. Eastern. And they said, absolutely, it has to do with Berman being removed a few weeks ago as the U.S. attorney over the Southern District of New York. Absolutely, it has to do with the fact that there's been a manhunt for her for almost a year, and that some experts believe that she'd been hiding out in certain areas where certain districts were not really trying to get her. Because if the FBI really wants to get you, I mean, unless you're living in a cave somewhere, they're going to get you. And so the fact that Trump and BARR have gone in there and removed Berman is a big sign that the dominoes are going to start falling very, very quickly. In fact, they already are falling very, very quickly. This is a very, very exciting time to be alive. I just cannot stress to listeners and viewers of this broadcast enough that you as an audience, all of us together, have been persecuted and demonized and lied about and targeted by these globalist criminals because we expose their modes of control, dumbing us down, dividing us, getting us into debt, corrupting a government and corporate and academic and ecclesiastical leaders into the sex cult of blackmail and Satanism. And as this full horror, and it's only stuck its nose around the corner right now, but as this full horror begins to come out, as this information begins to be drug out into the sunlight, it's going to be absolutely horrible. And that's why you're going to see cartoonish things put out into the pop culture that are meant to discredit it, like, oh, there's all these thousands of tunnels underground and hundreds of thousands of children that have never seen light that are living under these caves. That's not going on. Are there underground bases globalists have where they abuse kids and do horrible cloning experiments and cyborg stuff? Absolutely. Are there kids in dungeons underground? Better damn believe it. But, you know, there's been explosions and earthquakes lately because the special forces are fighting the pedophiles underground. That's all made up crap. But Jeffrey Epstein and all of his CDs with world leaders having sex with children as young as 5, and the snuff films and the devil worship and the torture chairs and the satanic temple on his island and the weird cloning facility at Zorro Ranch in New Mexico, that's all real. Eyes wide shut, all of it, and it's coming out. And so, quite frankly, I want to make a few more phone calls before because I'm not trying to do a cliffhanger here. I'm not trying to up the suspense and say, oh, I'll cover it next segment, I'll cover it the next segment. I'm really not ready to talk about the next leg of this yet because I want to get it exactly right. Because this is a big deal. And I'm not afraid of repercussions releasing this information. I just want to talk to a few more people before I do to make sure I get it exactly right. But I obviously I can't sit on information like this very long. So most people be sitting in their office thinking right now about, you know, how you handle something like this for a week or two. And the only reason I'm saying I get a little wild sometimes is I don't have time to sit here as all this keeps coming in and I already know the backstory and I have all these incredible contacts and all these sources in my own research. I don't have time to sit on this stuff, but that means I got to just shovel it out. And still, it's not a good feeling, though, when you get such bombshell info that you know is confirmed and real, to then not think about how you release it a little bit. You know what I mean? But when you're in a war and things are happening so fast, you just got to do the best job you can. So pray for us. Pray for InfoWars. I need your prayers, folks. I really need your prayers. This is a big deal, and the globalists are going to counterstrike. Okay, here's the big takeaway. Welcome back to the Alex Jones Show. Whenever you try to share an InfoWars link or a NewsWars link, or you tell somebody about the New World Order or pedophile rings or Satanism or the AI takeover, world government, and they go, oh, that sounds like Alex Jones bull. Oh, like talking about Epstein 14 years, 15 years before he was, big in the news. Years before he got busted for sex trafficking the first time and the cover-up. Because he was in the documents and in the reports as a triple agent of U.S., British, and Israeli intelligence, and he was running the summits with Bill Gates and other top scientists. And I knew what Bill Gates was up to. I just follow the information. I would have never imagined world leaders meeting secretly and Israeli prime ministers and British princes in a 7-story torture dungeon. But I was told this by FBI agents, by state police, by private investigators. And quite frankly, when I was getting told this, over a decade before I ever heard Epstein's name 25 years ago, I thought these are really interesting people, and I don't think they're lying, but I think they're a little crazy. I'll never forget, I was on 98.9 KJFK in 1997, and the show had #1 ratings at the time, and it was just about to get syndicated out of there. I was syndicating it myself. And the local big talk station, that was #1 everywhere else, wanted to hire me, but wasn't sure. 590 was the biggest station, KLBJ. And the new up-and-coming station was KJFK, 2 Democrat presidents. LBJ used to own KLBJ. And the program director from there called me up, Mark Caesar, nice guy. And he says, we were thinking about hiring you, but man, come on, that's not a real FBI agent that's on your show. I mean, he called me up at the end of the show on my cell phone. He goes, that wasn't a real FBI agent, Ted Gunderson. And I said, yeah, he used to run the Southern District, of California. He actually ran COINTELPRO. So he's actually a high-level FBI agent. He was even looked at for, deputy director and stuff. I mean, he was in the fold. But he was talking about sex rings, devil worshipers, the finders, the CIA, child kidnapping rings, and of course, all of it earlier this year, thousands of pages got released by the FBI on Twitter, and it was everything Gunderson said, including the towns he was saying on my show. And Gunderson didn't learn about this till later in his career. He thought, this is BS. There's not satanic rings. But he was in LA, and he'd go check it out, and it was absolutely true, and they were killing kids. And then he basically took early retirement so he could go fight these people full time because the FBI started trying to get him to not, they think, well, people just can't believe this, Ted. This isn't real. So I understand why people can't believe this, because it's unbelievable. You know, Twitter just banned General Flynn's lawyer 2 days ago. She's the one that's gone and met with the FBI and the state police in New York, very ones I told you about back in the campaign 4 years ago, who've seen Weiner's laptop that had all of Hillary's blackmail on it. And I'm going to explain something. For the few weeks they had it, people that have been on the worst homicide investigations, pedophilia investigations, you can imagine, literally had breakdowns after just watching a few hours of it, and they had to, in shifts, look at it because it was so horrible. We're talking raping and dismembering and torturing little boys and girls, okay? Now, she talked to him. She's a credible top lawyer. She met with people that saw this, okay? Just because she knows about it, Twitter's banned her. That's who Jack Dorsey is, folks. These people know all this. A lot of them are involved in it, and that's who they are. That's who's in your email. That's who's in your text messages. That's who's in your private messages. That's who's surveilling you. That's who's censoring you. That's who's controlling you. These are bad people. Yeah, put that back up. We forget 9 out of 12 people who saw Anthony Weiner's laptop are dead. They are. Dead, 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 dead. They're not just raping 12-year-old girls, folks, and drugging them. That's that. In that 7-story building in New York alone, they wondered, why are there these dentist chairs? Those aren't dentist chairs. Have you looked at those chairs? Those are torture restraint chairs. You think these people stop it? You think Epstein was having sex with dozens of new girls he was recruiting every week in Palm Beach alone because he really wanted to have sex with 2 or 3 young girls a day? He was recruiting them for networks all over the world. He recruited over 2,000 girls, according to police investigation that just looked into 5 years in Palm Beach alone. Thousands of little girls. And what was their job? To go out and get more girls. And he kept glamorous models around. One of them he bought when she was 11 years old out of the Balkans. But a lot of these women like it later. To go out and lure the women, beautiful women, to lure teenage girls into their thing. Just like you'll use a little kid in an ice cream truck to lure a kid into the ice cream truck. Oh, I got a puppy, I got a toy. I'm a kid. I'm a little kid. You're not scared of me. Get in the truck. Well, they use women to lure underage women. So remember, that's the evil animals that are still doing this. He was just a high-level manager and a very high work product person. He did a great job. He was probably, according to what we know, the most successful Renfield in the history of this operation. He was a procurer and a manager. He was the maitre d'. He was the concierge. And just remember that when you see the Google executives and the Apple executives and the Twitter executives and the Facebook executives, you don't get there unless you like to have sex with children. Bare minimum. Hard drugs, hallucinogens, satanic rituals. You don't even get in the club unless you think everybody else are animals that are like pieces of meat you buy at the grocery store. They see you like a T-bone steak. And if you're not young and beautiful and full of life, they can suck out and destroy. They see you as trash, less than valuable. So you just remember the guy that wants to put things in your body would stay in New York and in Paris on record at Epstein's house and would spend weeks there. His name's Bill Gates. And their name is Prince Andrew. And that's who they are. Remember, he's got a vaccine for you. And he wants the black people to take it first because he loves you. I mean, he funds Black Lives Matter that gives black people a really good name. He's and look, Trevor Noah, he's good. I mean, he might be I mean, he might have had a great-grandma or something that was black. So it's okay. Just take the shot, black people. I mean, sure, Bill Gates and his dad both said that they want to get rid of black people, but it's okay. It's their world. It's Ghislaine Maxwell's world. Look at her right over there. But, you know, Ghislaine is just like her father. He fell off a boat, 10, 15 years ago, into the ocean, named after Ghislaine. That's right. And he, of course, was in MI6 and Mossad and was buried with military honors in Israel at the Mount of Olives. And that's where we are. And the ADL is Israeli intelligence, an arm of it. And that's why the Israeli prime minister got caught at his house as well, Epstein's. And they're the ones that are banning everybody. They are in charge. The ADL, the Southern Poverty Law Center, are in charge of America, and their job is to cover up what you see happening right there on your screen. We are very close now. We are closing in on the globalists, but they will strike back. Remember, when those children are being raped and bled to death, that they cry out to God to defend them. And God has opened many windows and many doors to let us see into this nightmare. Do we have the courage? Do we have the courage to face the truth and save the children? Before this metastasizing satanic cancer burst onto the scene, which it's beginning to do, and externalizes the hierarchy and openly tells you that it's all based on Satanism, pedophilia, bloodletting, and child sex abuse. J.K. Rowling has had her road to Damascus moment, like Saul of Tarsus, and has now come out and said the trans movement is about abusing women and children and about abusing the people they trick into the trans cult who have the highest rates of suicide, drug abuse, and death, not because of people being mean to them, but because of the culture and the system and what it does to the average person. And that it's all about giving up our humanity. It's not about a man becoming a woman or a woman becoming a man. It's about us becoming cyborgs. It's about our children saying, we want to be a robot, and I'm a trans robot. I get a brain chip. That's what it's about. And then you can't say no. You can't make them wait till they're 18. That's not what's coming. That's here. I remember 17 years ago, a member of my family was in a restricted briefing in Texas for the Army, and they told them because it was commissioned officers, but with all the top non-commissioned officers, it was a bunch of master sergeants and above that. And they said, okay, as you know, some of the special forces have been given chips to track them, but we're going forward. We got secret projects, brain chips. And by 2020, this is going to be rolled out publicly, and we're just going to start basically chipping everybody. And he told me this, and I knew this, and I've been told this by other military. And I said, are you sure I can say that? Just don't say where it was. They figured it out. He got in trouble. Not too much trouble, but. You know, they tried to hire my dad in like 1983, 84 to move to Maryland and to be in an underground base doing classified stuff with human cyborgs. And by the way, it wasn't like he was that special. They were trying to hire basically all the people whose backgrounds checked out as loyal Americans during the Cold War who were doing dental implants. And my dad wanted to move there. My mom didn't, even though it was the equivalent of like $3 million a year they were going to pay him with inflation. It was like $400,000+ a year and expenses. But he would be up to a month in a bunker and then a couple weeks out, month in a bunker and then out. I mean, what do you think they're doing in there? He never found out. They just said it's not just implanting stuff in jaws and teeth. Think they're playing games here, folks? And look, a lot of that is people choosing to do that, and for whatever missions, some of these projects are probably good. But the point is that there's evil, crazy scientists hiding all over the place in this, and they're running things. And they're doing these other laboratory tests and other projects, finding who's really psychotic and evil, and then taking them out and putting them in other projects. So it's like panning for gold, but they're panning for evil. And that's really what all this is about. You think they told him for 40-something years till it got exposed to inject black people with syphilis and watch them die from it to really see what syphilis does to somebody? They did it to test scientists and nurses that would follow orders. It's a seduction. We've had callers, but it's been in the news, who are, like a graduate student, and they go, hey, let me take you to this secret lab. I think you can check this out for yourself. And you take them to the lab, and they go, here's the animal hybrids of pigs and humans. And if you go along with that, this is only 5% human. Next, they show you, hey, let us show you this. It's a pygmy pig that's half human. And you're in a room with a pig that's got human eyes, and it's even gerbling and talking. But it sounds like a monkey, but it's talking. I've talked to people that have been in the rooms with pigs that look like people, because they are. Now, that's in the news now. I remember, because we snuck up on them. They didn't know what was going on. And by snuck up, I didn't even know what we were doing back then. 23 years ago or so, I see in a military journal about how upstate New York, they've got part goat, part spider creatures that create body armor in their milk. So I call up and say, will you come on? The director of it came on. He calls back a week. He goes, I shouldn't have done that interview. Mr. Jones, will you take down the interview? Back then it was MP3 files from GCN. He's like, I got the military's really mad. I shouldn't. We broke the spider goat story. It was a footnote in a scientific journal. Then later, years later, listeners at the time thought the dude was fake and thought I made it up. Now you type in spider goat, there's 10,000 stories about it. And now they're like, oh, we're now making goats that are more spider than they were. Oh, the most human mouse has now been made. And then you read, and it's mainly human. It's a little human. So what did I tell you years ago Bill Gates is into from all the pieces? Because they'll say one in one piece, and then they'll say more in another piece. But when you put it all together, you figure out what they're doing. A lot of times the government will also literally do that. They'll declassify part of a document, and then years later the other part, and somebody didn't black out this part or that part. You can put the two pieces together and figure it out. That's literally happens sometimes, but I'm talking about figuratively a lot of times as well. That, as best we can tell, I mean, we know this. It's even in the whitewash documentary about Epstein on Netflix right now that Bill Clinton's autobiographer wrote. So it's a whitewash as bad as it is. You think, this is pretty bad. Not 1%, folks. The women are like, yeah, and then he wanted me to have a baby. But the only thing is, I'd have to give it away to them and never see it again. Yeah, what do you think? And they kind of just leave it at that, like, oh, because, satanic covens have women that have babies in private and secret just to have the baby and then kill it. I mean, you know that, right? That's on record. There's been cases. But that's not what this was. They were going to implant her artificially. They told her this with a very special baby. Now, who knows what it's going to be? A Bill Gates clone, whatever. Because that's what rich guys have. And their clones are out walking around and don't even know who they are. Because you don't just create a clone and have it in some freezer. It goes bad. You've got to have them out walking around, growing up in a family. So when you need the organs, you get them and kill them and take the organs. Or they think they're going to be able to put their old brain in a new body. I mean, that's what all this is. And so he was running at Zorro Ranch with hundreds of women, artificial insemination projects. Now, see, that's the rest of the story. What are they doing in there? The word is all sorts of experiments, cloning, you name it. That's why you see the headline of the British government wants to pay for artificial wombs to be put in trans men so they can be women. And they're just getting you used to, oh yeah, taxpayers, we pay for an artificial womb so some crazy dude can grow a baby in them. That's just getting you used to all of this. And then now you've got all these humanoids that are already walking around. And they're now going to have rights. But they're all been programmed genetically to operate the way the globalists want. The mind control, the science fiction, it's beyond anything you can even imagine. And so that's why he was hanging out with all the top scientists. That's why he was getting all these billions of dollars of secret projects. That's why he was involved in all the secret Harvard endowments. Because, ladies and gentlemen, this is a giant breakaway civilization running a major cloning operation. Yeah, the latest article, you can type it in, is governments say that they want to pay for womb transplants and all the rest of this. This is just mad Scienceville, where you got to be in a pod, you can't leave your house. How many times did I tell you over the years? Look, I got to stop. We're going to come right back. Listen, it's the big 4th of July mega sale right now. Store-wide free shipping, double Patriot points. Today's special is X3 back in stock, super high quality, 50% off. Also, Lung Cleanse back in stock, 50% off. It's amazing. Vitamin Mineral Fusion, so good for you and your body, for adults and children, back in stock, 50% off. Vaso Beach, 50% off, back in stock. DNA Force Plus, 50% off. Winter Sun, vitamin D3 and vitamin K, so good for your immune system. It's back in stock. InfoWarsStore.com. Ultra 12, taken under the tongue, energy, stamina, libido, everything, 50% off. Back in stock. Vaso Beach, 50% off. Bodies, back in stock. Ultimate Turmeric Formula, free shipping, store-wide. Double Patriot points on your next order. Storable food ready to ship again. InfoWarsStore.com. Get ready and fund the InfoWar. Hour number 2 straight ahead. Spread the links.